Today we're going to be looking at Nasir's consolidation of power. This is us taking a look at how he managed to grab that power after the coup and basically solidify himself as the leader of Egypt. Now, this is a process, but throughout this next section we're looking at, you can see how sneaky Nasir actually is and intelligent he is. But just to really quick recap, remember, chaos and instability in Egypt led to the mistrusting of the king, the prime minister at the time, and people began to warm up to the idea of having an authoritarian, and that's how the free officers came in and basically took over, right? So now with looking at maintaining leadership, there were many questions surrounding the free officers. There are many questions surrounding the free officers as they, sorry I'm making so much noise, as they step into power, right? The idea of this just tyrant. Just means like justice, right? And tyrant just means like basically like a dictatorship, right? Somebody that has full control. So was there more emphasis on the idea of justice or more emphasis on the idea of tyranny? Was the job of this just tyrant going to be, over once this justice was restored towards the people? Would the military stay or return to their barracks? Because remember, the military, the free officers were the ones who were in charge, right? And was this a coup or a revolution? And could it evolve into a revolution if it just started out as a coup? So the quote that I'm bringing here is by Nasir, and basically it's his interpretation of what he was experiencing. Whether you believe him or not is up to you, but I want you to highlight that section that you see right there. Nasir says, I had imagined our role to be a commando advance guard, lasting only a few hours, after which the holy march of the whole nation would follow. But the reality I faced on July 23rd took me by surprise. The masses did not come, but they struggled in scattered groups. It was only then that I realized that with an embittered heart, that the vanguard's mission had not ended that hour and just begun. So basically the way that you can interpret this quote is the idea of like, oh, like we just came in thinking that we were just going to really quick do this coup and then our job would be over and everything would be okay because like the people would like do what they wanted to do. But then we realized that that was not the case and like they needed us more after the coup. And like that was just the beginning apparently because we're here to stay. Now, whether you think that's how, whether you believe Nazir or not, whether you think that's the truth and like he really did it with the intention of just like doing a coup and then leaving, that's up to you. Different historians have different ideas about this, and we'll see that later on. Next slide. As the free officers step into power, they soon realized that maintaining the power was not necessarily an easy thing. Despite Egypt appearing weak, there was a lot of, political parties that existed, trade unions and like active press, artists, all of that within the society of Egypt that had some influence. And because of this, there were political, economic, and societal expectations that were being placed on the free officers. So one of them political being civil rights, uncensored press, meaning the press can like just talk about what they want to without having to fear the government, freedom of expression, and then when we look at economic, better distribution of wealth, no longer being controlled by the economy, no longer being controlled by the foreign powers like, the British, foreign capital, foreign money, the redistribution of land, right? Splitting up the land from all the people who were like rich holding onto it to like everybody through agrarian reforms, and the poor people were the ones pushing this. And then societal expectations like elimination of corruption, the privileges that kept some people at the bottom while the rich stayed rich, right? So it's safe to say that the officers had a lot on their plate. How are they going to do this? We'll see. Next slide. All right, so in order to consolidate their power, so in order to make it stronger, the free officers basically had to use a mixture of force, propaganda, and as well use the legal system, right? They needed to satisfy the request of all of these different groups. So we've looked at these groups, the left, the liberal reformists, which is like the WAFT party, and then the Muslim Brotherhood. So the brothers, we're going to look at them in more detail way later on. But they also had to be ready to act ruthlessly if anybody threatened them. So they knew that they needed to kind of like make them happy, but at the same time, it's like not too happy because we can't have them as a threat. And if they are, we got to get rid of them, which we'll see that happening later. They had to appear popular in the eyes of the masses as if they could continue to bring change, right? Because that's what they promised. And multiple people in the past in Egypt have promised that and then have fallen short. So it's like, we're not going to do that. We got to make sure that we keep our promises because the people have had a bad experience and then we'll lose power if they don't believe in us and our ability to bring change. All right, last slide. So after the coup, the first few months after that, we see changes did not really necessarily come fast, but they were coming. So Egyptians were told that their government would remain basically almost the same in the hands of the monarchy. The conservative politician became the prime minister. His name is Ali. Additionally, the king had still was state like I said, the monarchy still in place, but there was three members of that were going to be in his council. So it's not like the king's making all these decisions himself, right? This council, Regency Council basically is in there to kind of keep him in check if you want to think of it that way. Within the first few weeks, the government abolished civil titles, and anything that had to kind of like get that gave privileges to like a certain group of the population just because they were born into that, right? So they're getting rid of that. It also suggested income, profit, inheritance tax reform. So this was supposed to help the poor. Political parties were also asked to get rid of people who were in position of power before the coup. So it's like we're trying to clean this place, and if you were in charge before, you can't be in charge now, right? While the officers came into to get rid of corruption, they did end up forming this thing called the Revolutionary Command Center, the RCC. Please keep this group in mind because it will play a big role later on with the free officers in this year, right? So this is the free officers group that they formed. Basically, what they were doing is they would remain behind closed doors, as you can see in that picture, and they're basically guiding the government and calling all the shots. The hidden hands is what their nickname was, and you'll see the big role that they play later on in Egypt. But anyways, that is it. So have a good day. Bye.